Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your participations in these sessions. You will come to the Eco Training Center, Sweden, for this series of Eco Training Center UN SDGs Festival program. I am so happy to welcome our speakers today, Mr. Abdel Hadi. Mr. Abdel Hadi Khalifidar. Correct me if I'm pronouncing wrong. Thank you, Mr. Abdel Hadi. Mr. Abdel Hadi from Morocco. And we know all that Moroccan people is very active. He is a teacher of English language, and he is very active and has taken participate in many conferences, events around education, around SDGs. He will be our speaker for this today, and he is going to talk about SDG number 1 in poverty, and he will talk about the poverty definitions, types, specification, everything about poverty. And I want to ask you kindly, my colleagues, guests, to participate effectively in this discussion, as Mr. Abdel Hadi will not present PowerPoint. He is well talking, and it's open and free for everybody to say his word and to share us his experience, his knowledge about implementing SDG number 1, talking about poverty in general, or what is related implementing SDG in his or her country. Welcome you again, Mr. Abdel Hadi, and the floor for you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, I'm happy to take part in this international webinar. I have the honor and the privilege to address such wonderful and distinguished audience. So we are here to discuss the topic of poverty. You know, in order to prevent poverty, we have to understand all the key concepts related to the topic of poverty. You know, poverty can be defined as a state or condition in which a person or community lacks the essentials or financial resources for a minimum standard of living. Beyond this general definition, there are other different perspectives how best to define poverty. What does that mean? It means inability to satisfy. It means inability to satisfy the minimum consumption needs. The minimum needs depend on a society. If you live in a place where you need to have a car, then the minimal consumption need is that you have a car. But of course, if you live in a less developed society, having a car is ridiculous luxury. They don't even need it, especially in the agrarian society. The way economists have divided this out is that there are different perspectives. In one view, poverty is inability to satisfy the basic needs in an absolute sense that is constant and changing. In another view, poverty is a relative concept which varies across societies and changes over time. These two perspectives are reflected into two types of poverty: absolute poverty and relative poverty. We will start with a short definition of absolute poverty. Absolute poverty is characterized by severe deprivation of basic human needs such as food, shelter, education, sanitation, toiletries, etc. Absolute poverty is when households receive less than 50% than average household incomes. So they do have some money, but still not enough to buy anything above the basics. This types of poverty is, on the other hand, changeable. It's not the same as absolute poverty. So relative poverty is changeable depending on the economic growth of the country. So we have to ask some questions here. Why are people so poor? And why do so many human beings live in such desperate circumstances? Why others are flourishing? The causes of poverty are complex and interlinked. Complex and interlinked. We could say, for example, that historical circumstances such as wars create poverty. But even during wartime, there are some people who are likely or who are more likely to fall into destitution than others. So we can say that historical circumstances or events alone don't provide a full explanation. Ethnicity, yes, ladies and gentlemen, ethnicity can be a factor of poverty because according to the statistics, there are some minorities who are poorer than the others. So gender can also be a factor of poverty because in many parts of the world, women are at more risk than men. So here we can say that women are poorer than men in many parts of the world. So age. So the statistics also show that age.
Mr. Abdelhadi, unmute yourself, please.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, it's okay now. Is my voice clear?
Yes, clear.
Is my voice clear? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So we are talking now about the factors in addition to historical circumstances, so other factors that create poverty. So as I said before, ethnicity can be a factor of poverty because some minorities are poorer than the other groups of people. So gender can also be a cause of poverty because women are poorer than men in many parts of the world because they lack some cultural and material assets. Age can also be a factor of poverty because according to statistics, old people are so poverty among old are more than among young people. So disabilities, we can say people who live with disabilities are at greater risk of poverty than the other groups of people. In addition to all these factors, we can also say some economic or socioeconomic factors like corruption, marginalization, exclusion, bad governance, and so on and so forth. All these play a part. On top of these factors, there are other factors which is not man or which are not man-made. So the factors that are not man-made are geographic location, the place where you live in the world, or whether or not that place is prone to climate or weather events. So of course, there are some like tsunamis, floods, and so on and so forth, can have a great impact on whether you experience poverty or not. Of course, these are the factors that create poverty. Of course, on top of these man-made differences, of course, there are so many factors that I cannot talk about them now, but most of the time, it is a combination of all these factors that creates poverty, almost all of which are outside of the individual's control. So the important thing to remember is that poverty is not a choice. It's not a choice. It is a situation. It is a situation. So here I want to say what Nelson Mandela said, poverty is like apartheid or slavery. It is not natural, it is man-made. So it can be eradicated and overcome by the action of human beings. Of course, there are a lot of solutions of poverty, but of course we have to find the possible solutions to eradicate this phenomenon. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say the most important one, which I believe, of course, is effective. The first one is equity, equality, social justice, and democracy for all. The main causes, as I said before, of poverty are marginalization, exclusion, and discrimination. For a community to work its way out of poverty, all groups must be involved in the decision-making policy, especially when it comes to have a say in the things that determine their place in society. I mean here democracy, because the poor must be involved in the decision-making policy. The second one, which I believe is important, develop and implement rapid and sustained economic growth policies and programs in areas such as health, education, nutrition, and sanitation. The next solution is improve management of water and other natural resources, because most of the rural poor depend on agriculture or other natural resources for their livelihood. Therefore, it is important that they have more equitable access to these resources. The next solution is providing all people with access to basic social services, including education, healthcare, and clean water. Finally, if we work together and if we work hand in hand, we will make the impossible possible, and of course we will eradicate the problem of poverty. Thank you very much for your attention. And of course, now you are free to ask any questions, and we will discuss the topic of poverty in details. And I'm ready to answer all the questions related to the topic of poverty. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abdelhadi, for this important information about poverty and
yes,
what are the definitions, what are the types of poverty and what the causes for the poverty, and you given a suggested solution for the poverty.
Solutions, yes.
Yeah, thank you. And I open the floor for all the participants to give their questions, please.
Yes.
Mr. Akuk. Mr. Akuk, you raised your hand?
Yes.
You can switch on your camera, please, if you can.
I don't hear everyone. about COVID time that I was taking. Yes, yes, doctor. Are you hearing my voice? You can hear me, right?
Not clear, sorry.
You can hear me?
Yes, yes, go on now.
You can hear me, please?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you well, Mr. Akuk. Maybe he has left. Okay. Another question. Would you please write your names in your accounts, because I know who are going to ask to say the name. Yes, please.
Okay, I'm back. Can
Yes,
you
Mr. Akuk, again.
hear me?
Mr. Akuk, can you write your question in the chat?
Okay.
Can you write your question in the chat, because we can't hear you
In
well.
poverty, I believe. Yes, I cook. Yeah, I I will do that.
Yes, please. I have questions, Mr. Abdel Hadi. As you talked about poverty, and you mentioned that you took two types, or two kinds of poverty: absolute poverty and relative. And you focused on the absolute, as United Nations focused in the SDG now on the absolute. My question here: is there a minimum income, daily income for the absolute, and what is this?
You know, of course, every country has its own measure for poverty, but the World Bank defines absolute poverty as those people who live below the threshold, that is $2 per day. So if you live below the $2 a day, so you of course you experience absolute poverty. That's the threshold, which is defined by the World Bank. That's the international recognized authority.
Yes, it means that a high percentage of the people in the world are in absolute poverty. For example, in Africa, Asia, and maybe in other parts in the world, the individual income lower than $2 daily.
Yeah, $2 US dollars. Yeah, per day. That's the threshold of absolute poverty. You know, not the majority, because you know that the majority of people in the world now satisfy the basic human needs like food, sanitation, shelter, etc. Okay, and like some African countries, or those countries which are suffering from civil war. So the people of these places, you know, are suffering from absolute poverty. So they live below the $2 per day. Relative poverty is something else, which is totally different from the absolute one. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
From the word relative, it means it's not the same for all countries. It depends on the situation and the circumstances in each country. And as you mentioned, that there is a local definitions for relative poverty.
Yeah, relative poverty means something else. Relative poverty means when households receive less than 30% than average household incomes. You know, this one changes over time, and of course varies across societies.
Yes.
varies
yes,
across
in this-
societies, and is changeable depending on the economic growth of the country. Is changeable. Relative poverty is changeable, whereas absolute poverty is constant and unchanging. Relative poverty is changeable depending on the economic growth of the country. So as I said before, there are two concepts, or there are two perspectives to define poverty. The first, in one view, poverty means the lack of the basic human needs, or the main necessities like food, shelter, sanitation, toiletries, education, where in an absolute sense that is unchanging and constant, whereas relative poverty is a relative concept, which varies across societies and changes over time. When the household receive less than 50% than average household income, that's what we mean by absolute, or by relative poverty. So these two perspectives are reflected into these two types of poverty: absolute, or what we call extreme poverty, those people who live below the threshold, that is $2 a day, and relative poverty, of course, is changeable depending on the economic growth of the country.
yes.
Yeah.
For the reasons of the poverty, you mentioned also two resources of the poverty: man-made and maybe natural one.
Natural, yes.
Yes. Related to the man-made resources, how can we consider the wars, the conflicts, as a basic resource for poverty?
The causes, as I said, poverty is not as simple as so many people think. The causes of poverty, as I said in my presentation, are complex and interlinked. Of course, I've talked about historical circumstances such as wars create poverty, but of course, during wartime, there are some people who are more likely to fall into destitution than others. So historical circumstances or events alone don't provide a full explanation. There are other factors. Of course, we have ethnicity, or what we call, people are discriminated according in terms of ethnic group. Like, for example, in America, the minorities in the United States of America, the poverty among the minorities in the United States of America are greater than the other group of people. So they have the same experience and qualifications, but the percentage of poverty among minorities are higher than the other groups of people. So ethnicity can also be a factor. This is a man-made factor, of course. And we have gender. So in many parts of the world, gender can be a factor. Gender. Women are at greater risk of poverty because, they lack what we call the material and cultural assets. Material and cultural assets. Disabilities can also be a cause of poverty. Poverty among people with disabilities are higher than the other groups of people without disabilities. Of course, age. You can see that old people are poorer than the young ones, can also be a factor. And we have some economic or socio-economic factors like corruption, bad governance here. I mean, bad governance, the bad policy. Of course, lack of democracy can also be a factor of poverty. Of course, that's why here, in order to prevent poverty in the future, we have to understand what causes it and what factors that exacerbate it. There are, in addition to all these man-made differences, we have also geographic location. Also, geographic location also matters. The place where you live, or whether or not that place is prone to some climate or weather events, such as tsunamis, floods, earthquakes, or even climate change, can have a great impact on whether you experience poverty or not.
Yes.
And when we want to find the solution to the problem of the poverty, we have to concentrate more on the man-made differences. As Nelson Mandela said, poverty is like slavery or apartheid. It's not natural, it's man-made. So it can be eradicated and overcome by the action of human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what are my ideas clear for everyone?
Yes, so clear.
Yeah, thank you.
We have questions now from Corina Shushda. Welcome, Corina. Abdel Hadi, what is the best way, in your opinion, to educate our students related to poverty?
Of course, education. Education is the main solution of poverty. To break what we call the cycle, the vicious cycle of poverty. Of course, we have to educate children. And of course, as a teacher, personally, I'm a teacher. And we have to educate children the same as all groups without discrimination. So all children must be educated the same. So I mean equity and equality. Equity and equality. So all children must be educated the same.
This is inclusion.
Yeah, of course, the same.
No child left behind.
Yeah, no child left behind. Yeah, no child left behind. Yeah, of course.
Okay. We have also a question from Govi. Thank you, Govi. Isn't time to increase the household as price raise is going higher and higher these days? Can people in the poor countries like African countries meet to ends meet?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I can't understand the question. But if you can see it,
can you be more explicit, please?
Govi, can you elaborate more, or you can say it verbally?
In another word, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, namaste from Nepal.
You are welcome.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is like that. As you talked earlier, the threshold for being poor is $2 per day. So is that enough, for two ends meet in this present situation, because the price rise of everything is going higher? Is that enough for people to live with $2 a day? So isn't it time to increase the threshold? That is my question.
Yeah.
Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay,
Yeah, it's clear.
sir.
Clear.
Just my curiosity.
Yeah, it's a good question, but this question should be addressed to the World Bank, not me. Yeah, to the World Bank, because the World Bank,
So
you know,
because
the vine.
yeah, this is my
Of,
curiosity, and if we create pressure like that, people who really
yeah,
suffer, they will have their voice.
yeah, of course, I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah, that's a good point. But you know, you have to address this question to the World Bank,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
yeah, the World Bank. It's not me. Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with you. I totally agree with you. You know, $2 is not enough to live in
Yeah,
dignity. Yeah,
of course.
yeah,
And we are talking about the education also, because every country, doesn't provide free education. So,
yeah, of course.
and there is, diversity in educating children, because some children have access to really, well facilitated schools, and some students are, I mean, children are still left behind. They haven't seen the school aid.
Yes,
We can see in the world scenario, in some places.
yes.
So how can we develop the whole world if we have such partiality? Uh, so it was just my curiosity. Thank you for agreeing with
Y-
me.
Yes, of course. As I said in my presentation, the most
I,
important
I'm sorry,
solution.
I couldn't, uh, get get in time for the presentation. I just, got the link 2 minutes
Yeah,
ago from Corina. So I'm sorry,
yeah,
I couldn't hear your presentation earlier.
yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay,
So
I'll
it's
try next
okay.
time.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Yeah, it's okay. So you know, as I said in my presentation, equity and equality for all is the most important solution. So,
Definitely.
yeah, the most important solution. So, you know, Corina has just asked a question that
Mhm.
education can be a solution to the problem of poverty, of course, in order to break
Definitely.
what we call
That is the
the
key
cycle of
factor.
poverty, the
Yeah,
vicious,
that is
yeah, the vicious
yeah.
cycle of poverty. You know, some children are trapped, yeah, or
Mhm.
are stuck in poverty because their parents are poor. So in order to break what we call the vicious cycle of poverty, we have to provide education for all the children, for all the children, the same, without any discrimination or exclusion. All children must be educated the same. Of course, here, I mean, there are some countries which have private schools and state schools. You know, private schools are, you know, in some countries are better than the state ones.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, but this is not equal. This is not equal. So all children must be educated the same. That's what we mean by equality and equity, and of course, social justice.
Yes, thank you, Govi, and thank you, Mr. Abdelhadi.
Yeah,
As you are talking now about the solution, and you mentioned that the equity and equality is the basic for putting the solution and sustainable solution for the poverty.
yeah,
But I think, as you said also, each one of us has his own or her responsibility to end this poverty. I mean, if I began with myself as an individual, I was a father or mother, I can do many things for my family to end the poverty. But in the same time, considering the situation around us and relate to the other maybe disaster, economical disaster, or something natural disasters, which hinder me as a father or mother, as an individual, to reach to my goal. I mean,
yeah,
we need يعني others to suggest reasonable solution to end this a big issue. From my perspective, I consider the United Nations, when they launched the SDGs, they put poverty number 1, not 2, not 3. Even the education, we consider education is the basic one, and we can consider education is the first solution for every thing, every problem. But also, when I am poor, I can't get the essential needs for my life. I will not be good in school. I will not be good in education. I'm thinking in food, water, the basics needs for my family, my children. Before I am not thinking, I will not go to think about education, because we know that Maslow hierarchy, there is the basic needs, food, water, and these needs should be in the beginning.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, of course. I totally agree with what you said, because of course, without satisfying the basic needs, we cannot satisfy social or esteem needs. This is according to Maslow's hierarchy of the needs. I agree with you. Of course, we have to satisfy the basic needs like food, shelter, etc. In order to move to the second part of the needs according to Maslow's hierarchy of the needs, we have to satisfy the first one, the first need, which is basic, in order to move from basic to social. And of course, when we satisfy social needs like belonging, the sense of belonging, love, etc., then we move to what we call esteem needs. Of course, we have to respect Maslow's hierarchy of the needs. I totally agree with you. We cannot.
But now even Maslow's hierarchy is changeable.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, it's changeable. But it's true. It's true. It's true. I agree with you. It's true. You cannot educate yourself without satisfying the basic needs.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, we have to satisfy the basic needs in order to move to social needs and esteem needs. Yes.
Yes. There is many notes from Monica. Agree, education is the key to eradicating poverty. Corina, again, thank you. Look what's happening in Afghanistan nowadays. Yes, agree, related to the conflicts. And
the conflict,
yeah, conflict. And again, from a cook, as you said before, that poverty is not a choice. What about laziness? Some of us also might choose not to work.
Yeah, most of the time, as I said before, it is a combination of factors that create poverty. But I believe almost all of which, so factors are outside of the individual's control.
Yes.
Yes, outside of the individual's control.
Yes. My question now for all the participants, please give us a solution from your experience in your country. What can you do, or what can government or others do to solve this problem? Would you please share your experiences? Give just one way to solve this problem.
I'm not a decision maker. I'm just a teacher of English. Yeah, I'm not involved in the decision-making policy.
Of course, but you can tell us what the government can say.
Yeah, of course, there are some solutions, done by the Moroccan government. But they work on what we call the micro economic level, not macroeconomic level. They only concentrate, the government of Morocco only concentrates on the micro level solutions.
Yes, Mr. Abdel Hadi.
Like,
as we are going to do these sessions and we want to get benefits from each other, and now here we are many participants, colleagues from many countries in the world, and each one can give his own experience from his own experiences or her experiences to inform us, to teach us, or to guide us. What can we do for eradicating the poverty? I want to ask you all, please, to give me one note. If you want to write, okay. If you want to say verbally, please, you can unmute yourself and say.
Yeah, of course, we have to share solutions.
Okay, Kamalji, can I add one more point?
Of course, go ahead.
Yes, of course you can.
Okay, I think education should be more technical, and it should be, education should incorporate, technical education, and we should relate education with work. To create a job or to work in some factory, company, or something. So education should focus on producing. Creating manpower for different sectors. So in some countries, education is just for getting degrees. So that has created unemployment problem. So the education itself should create such manpower they are ready to work at any field. So I think technical education should be given emphasis. Just one point.
Yeah, thank you.
That is
Thank you. Yes. Siham from Egypt, we should support social work and improve the quality education. I agree completely with you, Dr. Siham.
May I please?
Yes, go ahead, Reem.
In my opinion, I think that in many countries, like they don't give chances for women to work. So like because it's not allowed. So I think that if they give them chances to join work like men, and as I also said before, that gender can be a factor of poverty. So if they just make them equal and women also work, so I think this will help. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you agree, Mr. Abdel Hadi?
Yes, I totally agree, because gender, can be a factor of poverty, as I said in my presentation. Of course, I want to say that promoting gender equality can be a solution to the problem of poverty. So women should enjoy the same equal opportunities as men. And we have to provide women with cultural and material assets as men, especially in so many societies.
Yes, from my side, I agree also. I completely agree with this opinion, Mr. Abdel Hadi and Mr. Reem, Mrs. Reem, sorry. But from my point of view, and allow me to say that this right should be taken from women themselves, not waiting men or waiting government to give them this right. They have to capture them by themselves, to struggle to do this, not waiting anybody to give them this right.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Okay. Is there any other note, remark, or questions from the participants? Yes, Akok again says it will known that poor governance is contributing to poverty in many African countries. Good governance,
Yes.
zero tolerance of corruptions and security stability will eradicate poverty in many parts of world. Yes, agree?
Yes, of course, I agree. I totally agree. Because of course we have to end poverty by preventing these policies such as corruption, exclusion, discrimination. Yeah, we have to fight all these things in order to put an end to the problem of poverty. But governance can be a cause of poverty, corruption, exclusion, discrimination, all these things, and even cultural attitude all play a part.
Yes.
All play a part.
Muhammad Anwar just added that individual is baseline for solving problems, but today's economic issues are hurdles to improve individual educations. The economical situation may prevent people to improve their education.
Sure, sure. You know, social, economic, you know, sustainable development. Sustainable development. Sustainable development, you know, is a kind of development which is used to satisfy the needs of the people in the present and future. Of course, you know, it has three dimensions: social, economic, and environmental. So all these dimensions are interconnected. If we have a good economy, we will have, of course, a good society. And of course, this society will live in a good environment. You know, social problem, economic problems, and environmental problems are interconnected, interlinked. To solve social problems, we should have a strong economy. In order to have a strong economy, we have a good policy. That's what we call the political dimension. So I mean good governance. Good governance creates strong economy. Strong economy, of course, helps people to live in dignity and prosperity.
Yes. Now,
Clear?
Corina Shushda supports you.
Yes.
It was one of the best and engaging decisions so far. Thank you, TTC, and thank you. Thank you also, Abdel Hadi.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're most welcome.
Okay. The final word for you, if you want to say something, Mr. Abdel Hadi, before concluding the session.
Yeah, I would like to thank all the participants and to thank ECOL Training Center for giving me the opportunity to share my ideas with you. And I want you to say thank you to all the participants and members of ECOL Training Center. And I'm really happy and proud of being one of you. As I said before, together, if we work together, if we share ideas with each other, we will solve all our problems, but together.
Agree completely with you.
Yeah,
Mr.
we have to work hand in hand and we have to share ideas. Of course, we have to share and care. That sharing and caring.
Yes, there is point from Govi before ending, but the problem is mostly lies with rich people also, because they want to dominate countries, people keeping them too big. They want to hold a control. So unless the nationals of people understand it themselves, they can't raise up. Of course, it's a matter of belief that I think if each people in each country should uh, have a high belief of controlling themselves and to develop, promote their situation, their country, and their people. Agree.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
In the end, I want to thank you, Mr. Abdel Hadi, and we
You are
thank you
most welcome.
for all the participants for the fruitful discussion in these sessions. And
Yeah.
many greetings from me, Kamal Jiber, as a board member of EcoTrain Center, from my colleague
Yeah.
Siham Sayed as the coordinator for the program, and Mr. Azzat Hassan uh, as a leader for the Eco Training Center. Thank you all,
Yes.
and I hope to follow us also in the following session.
Yes.
Will also meet you in next Sunday. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye. Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Abdelhadi. Thank
Yeah.
you, Dr.
Thank
Yeah.
you for
You,
the
Kamal.
nice
Bye.
presentation.
yeah.
So
You,
interesting.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
From
interesting.
you're
them
welcome.
that
Informative
joined till the
Yeah.
end.
presentation, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laila.
Yes.
Very
Bye.
nice.
Bye.
Let me just say some words to Mr. Abhadi. It's a very accurate and to the point presentation. So I'm proud,
Thank you.
baby. You are a Moroccan, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Layla. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
I want to raise my hand and talk about the sustainability. That's at the point I want to talk. You raised it at the end, so which
Yeah.
means that sustainability is the solution when we
Yeah.
meet
Of course.
all the three axes of environmental,
Yeah. We have to.
political.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have to develop and implement rapid and
Yes.
sustained economic growth
Because
policies.
yes, sorry to interrupt, because I believe that never poverty can be an obstacle for learning, having a civilized civilized society. Even
Yes.
for poor people can be very big. Okay, they become a very big intellect. Okay,
Yes.
through history, they proved that in all civilization, not just the poor societies. So poverty is never can. It's all related issues. Okay, the environmental, as you say, natural, agricultural, political. You talked also about governance is something. Yeah, governance is very important. Sure.
Yes.
So the people who have the decisions, so they can find the solutions, but the solutions can also in the hand of the educators. An educator is also a person who is must give him the voice, or give her the voice, and both the genders, the men and the women. So to all these things. Thank you for the presentation. And when I went to say a word, you said that's it. Sorry for interrupting till the end. Thank you, Mr. Kamal Jabir, and thank you, Mrs. Corina, for the invite. Next time, invite me. I'll be on time to join you.
Yes.
You are welcome.
You are most welcome.
Thank you for your contribution.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Reeb, if you are talking, I can't hear you.
Yes, I'm from Morocco. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, goodbye again.
Goodbye.
See
Yeah.
you
Bye-bye.
next Sunday.
Goodbye. See you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye,
Goodbye.
Mr. Al Hamid. Goodbye.
Goodbye.